I did put, in your handout, I put a figure 8. I don't always do a figure 8, but I'll show it today. And then we'll do heel locks. There's kind of a debate between which way a heel lock goes. I think I do a regular heel lock, and there are some that do a reverse heel lock. They do the exact same thing, you just go around the heel and ankle a different direction, but it goes towards the subtalar joint. So it doesn't matter which way we go. We will be taping, I'll show you more for an inversion or lateral ankle sprain, because that is what we will typically see. Every once in a while get a medial ankle, but not very often. So it's important which way we pull the stirrups for that to make sure and try to prevent having an inversion sprain. I also put in there a couple hip wraps, because I actually ask a lot of you to do those, especially my male coaches, so that I don't have to wrap male athletes all the time. So I put those in there. And then thumb, just a regular thumb, and then finger and arch for plantar fasciitis, because I actually ask a lot of coaches to do those for me too. So I actually think that the way we're going to do this is I am going to get a volunteer to be someone who gets taped, and I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to try to go through all of them, and then you guys can practice them with your partner. Is everyone good at that? So who wants to be taped? At least for the ankle.
Spain has good ankles.
Oh,
Who has
don't throw me in
Does one of your ankles?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Come on up. So you will have tape. Okay.
Doug showering it.
So what?
Well,
I don't know if everyone wants to stand up and like try to be around. You're gonna have to take that there, you know, and you're gonna have to take your sock out.
for the record, I normally don't let people sit on the table.
There you go.
Trust integrity, so it can be part of our table.
And this, we chose this room
Back
for
in the
these
day,
tables.
we used to shave. They don't make you shave anymore.
No, we're nice because we have things like pre-wrap. You can shave, make sure the area is clean if you're going to tape to the skin. That is a very old school way
Or
of
just
taping.
don't shave, and then they won't have to actually.
I every once in a while get a few kiddos up at the top. That just is just part of it. It's the way it goes. So you can use an adherent spray. I didn't bring any today, but you can spray the whole thing with the adherent spray, the taping pre-tape spray. We have heel and lace pads. They're the little squares with the goop on them, and you can put one on the lace part and then on the heel, and that just helps prevent any friction or any kind of blisters or tape cuts. To start, I like to start at the toes, but if you are more comfortable starting up at the calf, that is totally fine. We're only going to do like a layer of pre-wrap, making sure there's no holes, because again, that's tape cuts and blisters that we try to avoid. They happen sometimes, and that's just the way it goes. And making sure you just like that cover everything. So we're going to go from the toes and putting not a ton of tension on your pre-wrap, but enough that it just lays flat. You will probably get some that rolls, you might get some wrinkles, and trying to avoid that. Making sure that we go high. What I see a lot when I see some taping is that we're not going high enough. We try to do down here. We want it to go at least to where the swell of the calf goes. A short one is just not going to be as effective. So if you have an athlete that's like, no, I don't want you to go up there. No, if we're gonna tape an ankle, we're gonna tape it all the way up here. We're gonna tape it right, okay? So a trick to take out a roll is just to pinch out the roll. And then the next thing to do is just put some anchors. Making sure that when we lay our tape, it's probably going to be at an angle, because this is getting smaller as we're going down. So we're going to put a couple anchors. You can put an anchor at the mid-foot, but making sure to not get this one tight, because that is something an athlete will complain about if you get this too tight down here. You don't have to do this. This is just to anchor, so you don't absolutely have to put this on here. This is more of a preference for an athlete. The next step is making sure our athlete is sitting with their foot straight out and that they keep in this position. Some kids will get kind of lazy and they'll try to put their foot down, and you just keep pushing it back. You just keep tapping it back until they realize they need to stay in a 90-degree inflection, okay? The next thing we're gonna do is stirrups, and we're gonna anchor on the inside of the ankle. So this is what I was talking about, to pull out, to to prevent having our ankle roll in, okay? So we're gonna anchor it back here just behind the ankle bone, and you're gonna pull up to the other side and anchor it there. The next one is gonna be about the half width, and we're going to the other side. And we do 3. If you have a small athlete, maybe 2 will cover that, and that's fine. If they're small, like little track athlete or something. Then the next thing, I call it lacing down, but it's just, you're gonna start where you left off, and you're gonna come down by about half the width of the tape. So something that you have to just pay attention to the angles of the foot. It's going to be different the whole way down to where you're going to lay your tape. I like to go all the way down to the bottom of the foot so that I don't get a blister right here in the back side. The next thing that I don't always do, but I'm going to show you, is a figure 8, and you're going to anchor it about like you do a stirrup, and you're going to come down about where the stirrups are, and you're going to come around, and it ends where you began on this ankle. And you can do that on the other side as well, and it ends on the other side. This is where we get into our heel locks, and this is where if you do it different, that is okay. Like I say, I can't do a reverse heel lock. It feels really weird to me. I wasn't taught that way. So the way I do it is I'm going to put my tape about above the ankle, the outside ankle bone, and you're going to be at about a 45-degree angle. Every athlete is going to be different, so your angles are going to be different. It will not always be perfect because no foot is the same. You're going to I come around the Achilles, I catch the heel, and then come back to the top, up to the same spot where you began. That is a half of a heel lock. Then you're going to put it on the inside, and same thing, about 45 degrees. You're going to come around the Achilles and catch the heel, and then you're going to pull up across the front of the foot and end where you began. Okay? So on a small athlete, or if you're not comfortable doing a continuous heel lock, do single heel locks. A continuous heel lock can get really tight, and I get a lot of complaints from athletes about tape being too tight, and it's probably your heel locks are way too tight. So if you get crazy doing your continuous, if that's something you're comfortable doing, it's easy to get really tight. So that is one heel lock. I usually put 3 of those. For today, I'm only going to put 1, but normally we would put 3 heel locks. And then this is the point where we just close everything up, and you're going to look and see I have a hole here, and so this is when we're going to cover any holes that we might have. And then we start about, I don't know, just above the ankle, and you're going to close it up. And that makes it so that the tape doesn't roll and come off. Okay? And I forgot tape cutters down here, so I'm going to have to, actually, someone.
Have we already good for it?
We got a table saw. It actually wouldn't work because it's a
Dad just wants to wear this all day. I wouldn't do that. Yeah, you can grab it.
It'll cost you $200.
Well, then you'll be right there, right?
Okay.
Like, it won't go too far.
No,
Would you guys
definitely will
prefer to
not.
practice this really quick and do one, and then I could go to the next thing? How much time do you have?
Absolutely.
45 minutes. Do you want to practice really quick while it's just right here in our brain, and then I'll go to the next thing? Doug, you're going to wear this for a second, so I'll get some tape cutters down here. All right, so get a partner, and we'll grab.
That's all I got for you.
Let's grab a couple rolls of tape.
Get up there.
And I'll take it out.
I've got 2 feet.
Joshua here.
All right, who's up? You tape it. This is the only one. This is the only one that I probably done in several hundred.
I guess what, right?
might be several hundred up, but it hasn't worked.
With the new razor.
When I was a middle school coach, I did this. Now they're in high school coaching Cammie. I have to. This has nothing to do with anything, just not really.
Someone else, and maybe that's why I stopped doing it. I started doing it back in first year. It's gonna be
You don't want any more, you know that. Blisters, yeah, so that was. I'm not gonna worry too much because this is.
so much effort, fun, so much effort.
Yeah.
Cammie, yes.
Now it always, I push them away real hard, so you're not a middle school kid.
Oh, she's trying to. You don't have to.
I did, and I got a whole.
Oh, you did? Awesome.
She did a figure eight there.
Stirrups, inside out, I do pull them. I like it to be, the way I was taught, was this shouldn't be, you don't connect. Just as you wrap it down and tighten it, maybe a bit more support. Now, it's right.
You know what, so that's a wrap. As soon as you take the first ankle, all of a sudden everybody's got.
We had
It's about psychology.
Yeah.
It's they feel like somehow right.
I agree with that. It also becomes a badge of honor. I got tape.
I would think the opposite.
Yeah. Okay. From here, we go big grade. Okay, so big grade straight.
Just make sure that I wasn't
Is it
talking.
here, here, and then two of those.
It's not, it's new, so, no, just one there.
Do we do it the other way too?
You can't.
I don't remember if I'm supposed to.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Strikes and gutters.
See, and I'm being sloppy.
This isn't me.
I wouldn't run that stat.
You were on a 50-mile race with that.
Well, second quarter of my haircut it off, if I, so I would not. And then, but I'm not, and that also should. Take the nipples.
I did a long night. I'm bleeding and it was horrible.
Here's my best story. I ran in Moab half marathon. It's a great race if you ever do something. But it was like literally like 98 degrees. So you can sweat. And they had about, they were worried about us. So 5 places there, 4 water stations. And of course that means.
No, we sold our
Finish the race, and I picked my big brother to meet me at the park. There's 5,000 people. We ran a plan where so I'm just walking around.
Help me with my last ones. I got my heel locks, and I know I crossed my tail. That's my last, not fingers, yeah, legs. I go here, walking around, and then where do I end up? Okay, so I need to bring it back a little bit.
That's what happened.
Right, now, just get it. It won't. I will cover it up. Just trim that up. I do 3.
Some of these kids were sports section. This looks better. Becomes an issue.
Yeah. Also, that's why I do like, I use the pads. tape cut and tape cut. This usually just adds it from your laces. But this will have you know, really most things, because you can, you know, rotate it, and you can start tape. But if you don't put a nice blister right on there, and it's second quarter or third quarter, you don't have time to pull them, I mean, no, there, that's what the tape I have. But I would finish with boom, 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 cover the lip. Again, I would, if you did 3 more, or, you know, 4 of those ankle locks again, it'd be a lot more. I went to my wife, she's been 2 years, and I went to one because it was about athletics and injury prevention and stuff. I thought I might actually essentially been sat in with her. First thing we told this group, this is a national convention, they do this 100%. 100%. And you should see some
Like, that's how you know where to.
I'm not saying it's greatest, but it's pretty. Now, I have seen it, if you do this well, though, it does add some, but I
Football, basketball, you think of the side to side, whereas cross country, I think that's, there's nothing.
I ran out of tape, so I didn't finish. Well, all I do is cover it, though. I mean, I can do that, but we're just.
No, that's fine, if you wanna cut it off.
Yeah.
Oh, that's, see, we used to spray with QBA when I was young, which is the quick drying adhesive, and then they put the tape on it. And if you didn't shave, they didn't care, because the next, I mean, when it came off, it was all coming off. And then you had to worry about that. Yeah. And then, of course, you use the shark, you get a little bit, try not to hurt the muscle or the bone right there. Am I killing it? Yeah. That all comes out.
She did have
There you go, you take that home.
3 full.
See how it smells?
So that's
This is a good one, by the way. All right. Am I supposed to be taped now? But I think you should tape one. Yeah, he's never taped. I'll let you tape me if I want to, if that's what. For me,
Industrial.
does Jackson Jolly sit on these?
When you're paralyzed.
That's why you just heard of Wilson and yeah, I let the kids take it off. Okay, there you go. Yeah, here. And I got tangles.
Cut my toenails. I'm sitting there thinking, hey, how's your personal hygiene?
You can overlap it all, just to keep it smooth. I won't even overlap a bunch or not. The tighter you pull it, the easier, the more it will roll. So you want it to be somewhat snug, but not too snug, because then as you go around weird parts of the ankle. No. And you can't waste it. I mean, we got this stuff for years. See how it does that? Keep going though.
I've never wrapped one in my hat.
Yeah, just keep going and then pull those rolls at the end. Oh, I bet.
Now I go under.
Yep, and there's, yep. Yeah, I'm too tight.
I'm not great at this, but I think if you have a little more tension on it, more tension on it.
I know we're gonna prime rib there, too, what it smell like.
Yeah, that was, he just.
Too hard now.
Breaks it.
Toe jams.
Yeah, sort of.
Just don't put,
So that's just before you.
Yeah.
because when you wrap it around,
That whole stays out.
and then you can cut
Every time I got around.
And if you double wrap 12 times, it don't matter.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Just pull it tight.
Trap it with your fingers and pull it, that stuff rips pretty good. There you go.
What you have to do is heel raise. That's it.
Start right on the top and angle it. Put your end of your tape right here and angle it. There you go. Angle it that way because my leg is validate and you'll see as it comes around. There you go. It'll match up pretty well.
You're not just tear.
Yep.
And the only tip I would give is try not to get taped on your application.
I was doing that to
If they have a like fresh screen, that would be very tender.
Oh, that makes sense.
So making sure that you're trying to
So lift it above and
yeah, tear it off of that.
see that makes sense. I mean, if you're doing an actual injury,
Yeah, do a couple here, and then you don't have to worry about your pre-wrap.
right?
And then you can worry about, you know. You just take a couple of those.
Yep. And now the pre-wrap should stay for you. So now you go to stirrups. Inside out. Start at the inside.
Stay in the course.
Yep. And then I pull it kind of snug. Yep. Yep. And then perfect. Just like that. And now about half the tape width. And I do 3. She said
Jenny started this one.
I always thought.
And then she stopped.
I used to think you had to go like here, here, and here. You don't have to.
right. You don't have to go.
But everyone's able to like listen to me while a few of you are still taping? Okay, I'm worried we're not gonna be able to get all of these done, which is fine. That's why I gave you a piece of paper to take home with you so that you can look at it. Out of order. Okay, I was gonna show really quickly how to do the arch. So if I can get a volunteer so I can tape their arch.
Like the
Do one where you can start here.
Yeah, so we usually do this for an arch, a strained arch or plantar fasciitis.
Come right through that same spot, and then curve it, so you're gonna
Right on top. Yep.
Alright, so this one, just like the ankle, you're gonna have them with their foot extended out here and their foot at 90 degrees. You don't have to use pre-wrap for this. I do tend to use pre-wrap when I do this just because it can rub and get a blister in the back where we come around with the horseshoe.
Had I known, I would have painted my toenails too.
That was so cute.
Sorry, I'm just pointing out.
So the other thing is making sure if we're doing this, and you're not using pre-wrap especially,
We're all
is to
gonna
spray the
pedicure
crap
that.
out of it with the non-adherent spray because it'll slip around if you don't spray it really, really good. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do with the arch is we're going to put an anchor at the ball of the foot. It's making sure not to get this one too tight, just similar like in the ankle tape job that we're going just around. It's just an anchor point. And then this one, you can sit in a chair or you can kneel, but you have to get down to their level most likely. You're going to anchor big toe or little toe side, and you're going to come around with a horseshoe. And it's going to start on little toe or big toe side and end on the opposite side. Okay? Does everyone see that? The next step is to make the X's that go across the bottom of the foot. I don't ever have inch tape, so I usually just tear the 1.5 inch tape in half. So you're going to splice a roll like this. And we're going to start on the pinky toe side because typically we're trying to pull up this medial arch, okay? So you're going to come around and make an X up to the big toe. It's going to kind of make a teardrop shape. Thank you, Jenny, for that. That's why I was very happy. And then you're going to work your way across until this is covered on the bottom. So you're going to come just over from the one you just laid on the pinky side, and you're going to come around again and lay it just inside of that other one.
You always start on the same side?
Pinky side.
Yeah, pinky side to big toe side. Yep, and then all the way around. So we make an X down here, and we're going to do horizontal strips, and like I said, normally, most likely, we're gonna be pulling up this inside arch. So you're going to, right about where this teardrop happens, if you can see that, where it kind of makes a little point, that's where, thank you, I'm glad you're flexible, this is good. We're gonna anchor it over here on the horseshoe, and you're gonna come up onto this side, and it's okay if it goes above it, but we're gonna pull up into the arch. And then we're going to tear our tape over here. This tape job can be worn under an ankle tape job, ankle brace. It can be worn under, if you want to cover it with like an elastic tape or stretch tape like this. You could go over the top to help it be more secure. And you're just going to put those horizontal strips, and then you're just going to put your horseshoe again to kind of go over those ends, like so I went a little long on those sides. And then put an anchor on the bottom. Does anyone have any questions about that one? I ask a lot of coaches to do this one, so.
Plantar fasciitis?
Yep, plantar fasciitis or arch strain. Okay? There's that one. Make sure you take this off before you try to rip it off your foot. Like I say, you can cover it with like a stretch tape or a power flex.
Covered it with that, do you just cover it with?
Yep, just like an ankle. So if you're gonna cover it with the stretch tape, then you're gonna start at the toes and just go just till about right here, unless you want an actual ankle support. Then you could do an ankle tape job over the top, which I've done that before too. So there, this is this one.
Do an ankle over the top of the.
A lot of tape. Yes. All right.
Oh, you can't even move.
I think it feels great. I have really flat feet, so I love when people tape my arch. So.
Holy cow.
All right, I'm gonna show the thumb, and then I'm gonna let you guys and then the hips, and I'll let you guys practice the arch and the thumb. So, who wants me to take the thumb? Okay. So this one, you can have your athlete either stand or sit, making sure there's nothing on their wrist. You can have them hold it like this or like this. I prefer to tape like this. It's whatever you prefer. It really doesn't matter. As long as they're holding it in a neutral position and they're holding it strong and not moving around like this. If you need to, you can take middle school kids. I know. So something you can do is put their hand in your stomach and just hold and make them say you have to keep your hand right here. If you're not comfortable with that, that's totally fine. But that they tend to like start talking to other people, and then you're chasing them around like this. So if you can try to keep them here, like say this kind of keeps them right here. You don't have to use pre-wrap. I always find it kind of nice to use it on pre-wrap, especially the gentlemen that they have any hairy arms and stuff. We're going to make an anchor on the wrist, so pulling all the hair off. Some people just want it taped right to them, and that's totally fine too. So I'm going to put some pre-wrap to be nice to Cowley. We're going to go just around the wrist, and then we're going to just make that spica that comes around the thumb. I like to just do an anchor with a wrist, and actually most of my athletes want their wrist taped pretty tight when we do this, but you're gonna just put like 2 strips, or at least 1, on the wrist. And for this one, you're gonna also need a spliced roll. The way I start it is I anchor on the pinky side, and you come down right at the joint line of the thumb, and when you're coming around into the inside of here, this is between the thenar eminence, you're gonna bend your tape over a little bit so they don't get a tape cut, and you're gonna go around the thumb, and then you go on the underside, and you're gonna end where you began, on the pinky side.
And that's with your 1/2 inch?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I usually do 2 or 3, and this is a tape job that is super easy to get way too tight. So if you notice, I have my tape like all the way stretched out to here, because if you have, and I'll show you when you do it tight, their thumb will turn purple. So you just got to be really careful. So you're gonna start on pinky side, you're gonna come around and cross on that thumb, I like to just bend the tape a little bit, so when it comes in this space right here, it doesn't give them a little tape cut. And you're gonna come around, you're gonna go on the underside and end on the pinky side of the wrist. If you're doing it without bringing that tape out and like say, can get really tight, you're gonna wrap like this, it gets super tight. You're gonna be retaping a thumb over and over again. So the other way I've seen people do is they tear it off, like a big strip of it, and then put it on here. I guess they go this way. I don't ever do it this way, so I don't even know how. And then you can lay it on around the thumb that way if you are worried about getting it too tight. And then you're just going to cover
Cammie,
up
I have a question, sorry.
Yes,
Is
no,
it,
it's fine.
does it get too tight on the inside or the outside usually?
outside usually, and the whole thumb. Like you can see I got her a little tight. And then you're gonna just cover up those ends. But it's a very easy tape job to get extremely tight, so you just gotta be really, really careful and keep asking them. I think athletes get annoyed and say, is that too tight? Is that one okay? Do you want another one? Some want a little more support, so it's okay to put a couple extra spikas on there. So I would just make sure and ask them.
Will that one loosen up? No.
Not a lot.
Okay.
Nope, and they'll come back with a cold purple thumb, which is probably happening to Cowley right now.
That's where I check your thumb.
Great. All right, I'm gonna let you take that off, Cal. Does anyone have any? So also with the in football, I have a lot where kids want to go through the hand. When you go through the wrist, they'll want to go a wrist, a thumb, and through the hand. You can come through the hand with that also. You can kind of tie those together. And I don't get it as much in other sports, but in football I see that a lot where they want it through the hand. And same thing, you just don't want to get it too tight when you're coming through the meaty palm part of your hand. Okay, any questions about that one? Nope. Okay, all right. Amber, can I wrap your hip for you?
Sure.
Okay. These are all in these handouts. I tried my very best to explain these the best I could, so hopefully that makes not just sense in my head, but makes sense to you guys. If we're going to be wrapping a hip, for hip flexor strain or a groin strain, you're going to use either a 4-inch or a 6-inch 10-yard. So it's double long. So there's little straps where they will not go around an athlete. You need the double long 10-yard ones. But I would use this more like on a small athlete, and on a bigger athlete, we're going to use a bigger one. I have this one open already, so I'm just going to do this. So hip flexor, that's when we're going to have pain right here in the front part of our hip. It's difficult for them to raise that leg. This is going to give them that little spring in their step and give them a little boost. It's going to help facilitate that hip flexion. Like I say, I ask my male coaches a lot with my male athletes to do this a lot because it can be kind of a sensitive area. Ask your athletes to wear compression shorts or something like that to make it a more of a comfortable thing. I a lot of times ask coaches to be in the room with me when I'm wrapping, so make sure that you're doing those types of things as well, because this can be kind of a sensitive area. So if we're going to tape Amber's right hip, I'm going to have her try to put all of her weight on her good leg, and then she's going to just stay in a neutral position with a little bit of flexion in her knee. So she's just going to stand like this. On this, we're going to start on the inside and pull up at an angle. So you're going to start about mid-thigh, and you're going to come around. This is a big wrap. I don't usually wrap with these ones. So something you can do to help with this, you can do what's called a dog ear, if you've ever heard of that, or you can just cover that up. You're going to have quite a bit of tension on this, and you're going to just circle up all the way up to the hip. When you get to the top of the hip, this is where we're pulling up, and that's going to help that hip flexor. If you can see that that would be the direction that a hip flexor is here in the front part of our hip, we're going to kind of facilitate that. So we're going to pull up, and this one is going to go around their waist. Going to come to cross the front, and it crosses in the front part of the hip. And then you're going to come back around the thigh, and you repeat that around the waist. And then you're going to secure this with athletic tape right here, because you don't want to put the pokey things on them if they're going to do their sport, right? So you're going to put a couple strips and secure this. And then the other thing you can do is you can use something like Elasticon. This is just a little really sturdy elastic tape, or a stretch tape, and you could trace over it if you wanted to help make sure it doesn't unravel or go anywhere. I'm not going to do that to you, but I just wanted to show you guys that you could do that. All right. Nope, just take it off. Nope. Nope, it's not. Does anyone have any questions about the hip flexor? Nope.
And you said for groin too?
Yeah, so the groin actually goes the opposite direction. So I'm going to just do this. I'll wrap it up in just a second. All right, so for the groin, then we're just going the opposite direction. The only difference in their stance is I would have them internally rotate a little bit, so their toe is just going to kind of come in a little bit. Again, trying to put that weight on their good leg. And you're going to pull from the outside in, but it's going to start the same way. So from outside, pulling in, you're going to come around. This one, once you get to the top, it's going to cross in the front part of the waistline. It'll come around, it'll make an X, and then you're going to come around again across the thigh. And if you have the shorter wrap, this is where it would end. If you have the bigger wrap, then we would go around the waist again. Again, you're going to secure this with athletic tape. You can go over with the elastic tape. And this is for a groin strain. All right, any questions on that one? No? Okay,
This is on the paper, right?
it's on the paper. There's a picture, and I tried to do good pictures, so hopefully they make sense.
Next year, we'll understand.
Yeah. When I take my second time out in a row.
You should YouTube this. You should put them all on YouTube.
Is there a phone out?
You can YouTube all of these things.
Yeah. Hey, I'm pretty good. John said he got the first one, the ankle, and he's gonna put it up.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Oh, good. All right, so the other one I put on here was a finger taping. I can show this to you if you guys want to, but there's pictures, so if you just want to look at that. You obviously can just buddy tape fingers together. We're gonna do that a lot, but with some of like setters and stuff, they want all their fingers, so they like to be taped individually. So that would be, there's an individual tape one where you just make an anchor above that joint and below the joint, and you make an X across the joint. Pretty much, and someone said this to me earlier, you just put an X across the joint, and you're good. Like,
Cross out that joint.
Yeah, you put an X across any joint, and you'll probably be all right.
What size tape do you use?
I use inch and a half.
Are you using them? Do you use the full one?
What?
When you're going across?
Oh, no, I don't. No, I even almost go, smaller. It's probably quarter inch to half inch once I split it to do a finger. And of course, you have everyone that's a little bit different size. So, any questions from anybody? Did I overload you? If you want to practice anything, you guys go ahead and practice something. If you have a question, let me know. I'll work with some of you later. So, there's lots of tape. If you guys want to tape anything else, or you need to get your tape
I
off.
want to do it.
Hey, our taping guy's here. That side's doing groins and we're doing ankles, so just sit down and you're the man. Come on. Give it up.
Did everyone get a handout?
That's not bad.
Josh, did you want to go through the whole thing?
He did all the, yeah, so he did ankle locks, he did ankle locks, he did stirrups, he did all the cupping.
I need one.
For this part of it.
I say, I'm really sorry if I missed things, because we didn't get to do a lot of that.
Cammie, I appreciate it though.
Then you just wanna put this on a going, right?
I'm ready.
No,
Don't stand right by me, show me.
when you take care of prevention, you do that. You
I'd like to know how to do it.
Yeah.
Because I felt bad last year. You too, and like, I have no idea. Go to see.
The Wyoming Coach Association in the summer, their clinic in Casper, they do have a session, a care prevention session.
You guys are drinking on my cups.
Huh. Well, had I known it was yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I knew, I mean, I started going without cutting the tape. You know, and I'm not saying it's better, it's just different, but they do that ankle right into a figure eight, right into, and then, boom, you're down, you know.
Next. Like hog time.
Yeah. But Cammie was the same, she was at the University of Wyoming, and those guys on the sideline, they're amazingly fast.
No, I see that now, but I know what I want to do.
Yeah.
If you use that stretch tape, you stretch tape, and sometimes if you just wanted a little bit of support,
And
go for your ass, nothing, just.
Yeah.
Next one. It was nuts. Yeah. He's good. He's still alive, not ankle aspects. He is.
We had a guy named Larson that's pretty good to do that. Cammie's pretty good, I mean, she does a good job for us, but.
Must. Tape you over the face.
You got a kind of box of tape, have your name on it.
We're gonna learn the fan tape job, and you start here, and you cross, and then you just wrap until you're out of tape.
I'm not a setter.
Garbage can.
Good fresh tape. What's that from? You see good tape that's like that would you're doing or it's gonna be the rest of the life. You get the lighter, I mean, this stuff comes off just like smooth
So you want to avoid the joint for like mobility?
And she was she would just do one wrap and
Oh, okay. Like go there and end it?
See, that was a weird thing too. She didn't look like that. She went outside of the mouth.
Don't care on my athlete.
When she did.
Oh, sorry.
So you don't get those here first. Here you go. Outside of the mouth.
Provide support.
And then you punch the tape on it. You go inside and when she did it.
You'll cut the thread.
I would have done it too.
Yeah.
That's the